Right, we're over at the Bayswater Syndicate in Chelmsford, and the last time I'd done a diary piece was over at the Quarry, and we sort of finished up with the fishing that I'd done on the Belgium canals, and that was sort of, I think, July time. That was the last time that I've been abroad as such, and since then I've been concentrating in the UK. You know, obviously my missus was quite far along pregnancy wise, and I didn't want to be too far away should I get the call. So I had a new ticket for a lake in Peterborough. It's quite a large lake, maybe, I don't know, 30, 40 acres, that sort of size, relatively shallow, but has like an amazing snag system that runs through the lake. You know, like so much of it is inaccessible, but just purely because there's snags that you just can't fish beyond, you know, safely. So stock-wise, I don't know exactly what's in there, but I've got a fair idea. You know, a few people have fished it, and I've seen some pictures, and I think there's at least 4 or 5 different fish that have been caught at 40 pounds, which are still in the lake, and numerous 30s and quite a few 20s. Not a low stock, there must be 100 odd or so fish in there, and the syndicate was due to start, I think it was September 1st, and I paid my money at the end of July and was told I could carry on fishing. So I had sort of almost a month of almost exclusive fishing. There was a couple of other guys that could fish it that weren't really. So with in mind that it was going to be open and there's going to be sort of 15 new keen members coming, I thought really I should take advantage of the situation and do as much time as I can in the lead up to the syndicate, because we all know, well, from my experience, angling pressure is the single most thing that makes carp difficult to catch. Forget how many's in the lake, what the natural food's like. If people are fishing for them, then they're on guard, you know, and with that in mind, I thought, right, I'm going to have a go. So I was doing sort of a minimum of 2 nights, but sometimes, most of the time, 3 nights, and sometimes even 4 nights. So through August, I don't know how many nights exactly I did, but it might have been maybe 15 nights or so, say like the equivalent to half the month. And initially, I remember my first trip fell after the, I think it was a South Ings Social. I think I'd been up there with Corda, and then popped over to the lake, and there'd been a massive southwesterly blowing, and I remember thinking that it'd been blowing for days and days and days, and it was quite sunny, and I thought there's a good chance that they'd be on the back of the wind in the sun, you know. And the first time, walked round, climbed up the tree, as soon as I was in this swim, it's really, really shallow. You've got an island maybe, I don't know, sort of 50 yards out, and as you get sort of a third of the way out to this island, it shelves up really quickly, and it's only like 2 foot deep maximum, you know, really, really shallow. And up this tree, straight away, I just seen like a dark line come through, and then another dark line, and I was like, this will do me nicely. And I flicked out there, had a nice 24 pounder the following morning at first light, and that sort of got me going. So each day I was going out in the boat and looking for fish, you know, so shallow, so clear, no one else around, no one to disturb, and just taking out the boat with a little electric engine and just having a sort of a poodle around, looking for spots, you know, you can see clear spots, and looking for fish. And yeah, I started to see them here and there. And what happened in that session is I noticed a lot of fish around a swim that hadn't been fished for a long time. You know, the reeds had all grown up, no one had been in there all year, and I could see the bottom had been sort of worked. I could see some fish had actively fed there, and because I'd seen fish there myself and seen fish topping, I was like, this is a good place to try some bait. So I put in a couple of buckets of particles. It was sort of mainly maize, but there was lots of other bits mixed in, and whatever boilies that I had in my freezer. I think they were Cell, to be honest. Put all that out, and then came back. I think it was 4 nights later. So these 2 massive buckets of particles and the boilies had been left to rest for 4 days. And when I arrived, there was a massive low pressure blowing across the lake. It looked absolutely perfect. I was there at first light. I didn't see anything for the first sort of hour of daylight, and I was thinking, you know, that the morning spell is obviously a really good one, and I wanted to cast out over the bait, even having not seen anything. So I flattened the reeds down, and that even having to do that told me that no one had been in there over the bait, and flattened them down. And just before I cast out my first rod, a fish showed just behind the baited patch on the opposite side of the snags, and I remember thinking, this is on. This, like, the weather was perfect, the bait had been left unmolested, I'd seen a fish in the area, and that day I had 7 takes. 7 bites on a lake like that is exciting fishing. I'm afraid to say that I lost 3 of them. I was fishing 2 snags, not really tight, maybe a rod length short on these sort of gravel patches, but I'm only fishing sort of 40 yards out, and fishing at that range, and the snags aren't on the bank as such, so there's water running through the snags, and obviously the fish, they want to charge and go through the other side. I was holding on for dear life, and I had a couple of sort of tackle malfunctions. I had a 20-pound coated braid snap, and I had a couple of hook pulls, so I had to, it was a learning curve for me. I had to sort of adjust what I was using and step it up to 30-pound coated braid and size 4s, and then those problems were alleviated. But obviously I lost those 3 fish, and you never know, it could have been one of the nice ones, but I didn't see them, didn't get any sort of time to realise they'd come off. But I had, like I say, I had 4 fish. I think the biggest one was a 29 common, and there was a couple of other nice scaly ones. And the following week, when I came back, one of the 2 or 3 other people that had permission to fish there was in the swim. I'd pre-baited it again, obviously, after having 7 takes over it. And I told one person that I'd been in the swim, and when I came back they were sat in the swim. So I decided to start baiting another area where I'd been seeing fish, and again the swim hadn't been fished in ages. I flattened down all the reeds and started up like a really decent baiting campaign. Most of the time when I'm fishing, I'm opportunist style fishing. I'm looking for fish, fishing to what I see, and fishing like that, knowing that you can't bait up and it's going to be left unmolested. But because this lake wasn't open yet and there was only 2 or 3 people fishing it, you could, So a lot of my fishing was based around bait. Spent time at home boiling up massive Burkos fulls of maize, hemp, tiger nuts. Boiling on my days off in the garden, filling up every single bucket I had, and they were going out at the end of the session. I'd be leaving the lake on a Thursday and coming back on a Monday, and that had like Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, just out there bubbling away. If you give fish time and space, then they will come to the food. And in this swim called the Nest, I was just turning up. I had me spots all marked out at the range. Just turn up, hit the clips, pop-ups, pouch full of boilies over the top. Just one pouch full, just enough in case there was no bait left. But to be honest, the white pop-ups would have been enough. The fish were coming round through the snags, coming to the bait. And over the course of the 3 sessions that I did in there, I had a really good time of it. I can't tell you exactly how many fish I caught, but must have been 15 fish, something like that. No 30-pounders, which was surprising. Caught some fish that were probably 30-pounders at the right time of year, some 29s and some 27s, 28s. But obviously we were in the summer still, and they hadn't quite packed on the weight. But these fish were absolute stunners, really old, sort of 30, 40-year-old fish. And just beautiful, beautiful bit of fishing to be able to. For me, I'm so used to fishing pressured sort of circuit lakes, to be able to turn up knowing that your bait's been out there unmolested, that the fish have been building confidence, just turn up, go flick onto a clip, and from the moment the rod's in the rest, first thing in the morning, you think, I could catch one, and sometimes I did. Sometimes I'd catch 2 or 3 on the morning as soon as I arrived. But we got into September, the syndicate opened, and with the added pressure, the fishing become immediately more difficult. And by the end of September, I decided that enough was enough, really. Well, not even at the end of September. I sort of gave it 2 weeks into the syndicate opening, and I thought, I've had a good little run here. I can come back in the spring. My missus at that point was 7 or 8 months gone in the pregnancy, and I thought, with twins, they could come at any minute. And the thought of being 2 hours away, where I was fishing, and the thought of trying to get down that A14, how busy that can be with traffic. Imagine the blind panic. Your missus phones you, she's gone into labour, and you need to be there. So with that in mind, and I'd had a good run, I decided to come back to Bayswater. I've had the ticket on here 2.5 years now, and for the amount of time that I've had the ticket, I've only sort of only ever flirt with it, really. I have a go in the winter as we come into spring, but as those takes sort of materialise and all the anglers come, I don't really, these days I'm a little bit fussy about my fishing. I like to have a bit of space to operate, and I've not been here since March. I came back, it was the middle of September, and I set up in swim 9, nice swim, big view, hadn't seen any fish. We got down in the afternoon, but I had maggots with me, and a lot of people were still using boilies and going on sort of the summer tactics. And I know that this lake, when you have an algae bloom and the weed dies back and you've got a bald bottom, if you can get fish the maggot bags directly to where the fish are topping, that it'll probably be presented because there's no weed on the bottom. And the old maggot bags, they really are devastational. And I set up in swim 9, like I said, And in the morning I was having a wander around looking for showing fish. It was flat calm. I see 3 fish top on the far side of the lake. Immediately threw all the gear onto the wheelbarrow as fast as I could. Took it round to the nearest swim, which was peg 3. And round to the right of peg 3 you've got sort of like a no fishing bank as such. But you are allowed to take your rods around the side and place them in the edge, because then you've got less line in the water. So that's what I did. I went round to where these fish had been topping, underarmed out a maggot bag, just one really gentle, feather in it to make sure it doesn't make too much of a splash. Felt it down, it touched down onto the bottom, and it's presented because there's no weed about. It was out there a couple of hours and had to take 36 pounder, so I've been digging away up in Peterborough, catching loads of 20s, nice fishing. First bite back at Bayswater, 36 pounder, and followed that up a day later on the same spot with another 35. So that sort of got my Bayswater autumn campaign up and running. I was absolutely buzzing to have turned up for my first session, 3-nighter, and catch 2 35 pounders. So yeah, that was, 35 pluses, sorry, really good bit of fishing. I came back the following week and the fish were in swim 9, where I'd started the first session. So I've gone round there, set up in swim 9, put my rods out to where the fish are, and they sort of moved away. As my maggot bags have gone in, like a couple of hours later, I'm seeing them further out than where I originally cast. And I decided not to recast, to leave them and hope that they would drift back onto my baits. And the night passed, and in the morning I woke up sort of 2 hours before light, and I'm watching them still showing where they were the previous evening. I'm thinking, I haven't got rigs there, I really have. I've got to adjust my rods. So I put the first rig out there to a showing fish, they continue to show. I put a second rod out to the fish, they continue to show. And then I got greedy and I put the third rod out. As I put the third rod out, just stopped showing, just immediately, just instantly stopped. And in the space of 10 minutes, I was thinking, I've messed up here, I've messed up. And one showed over the other side, 100 yards from the last show, one showed over the other side, 100 yards away. I was like, oh, here we go, don't say they've moved. And then another one showed, and another one showed. So from 1 minute, my swim being absolutely loaded with fish, I've thrown all the gear onto the wheelbarrow. And because they're showing in swim 3 where I've caught on the previous session, I'm ultra keen to get round there. Not only the fish in the swim, but they're on the area where I know I can get takes because I've had previous bites. And if you can align that, that's brilliant. So I went round there, underarmed my bags out again, and the action didn't come immediately. They were sort of, they moved off of the margin after a cast, and they were sort of out over deep water, but I stuck to my guns, kept them in the shallow. And as the wind blew in on the second night, it was really slamming into that sort of the bank where there's no swims as such. I've got just the slack lines in there in the edge. I went round there and checked one of the rods at, I think it was about, I've been round at 10 o'clock and checked them and everything was fine. And I went round there at 12 o'clock and checked them again. And when I'd reset the rods at 10 o'clock, I'd forgot to turn the bite alarm back on one of my rods, which is absolute schoolboy area. There was about 100, I was fishing in the edge like a rod length out, and I could see from the reel there was about 100 yards of line missing. I picked up the rod and the lines just shot out to this island out in the middle of the lake. Fortunately, it wasn't in the snags. I managed to play it back all the way from the island, get it into the edge, and I could see it. And to my mind, I recognised it. I saw it four times, and I think, having seen it 4 or 5 times, there is a fish called Buggy's fish, which is around 45 pounds, could even be a tiny bit bigger. And I had it on under the tip, up and down, but because I'd not been on the rod when I had the take, a ball of weed had sort of formed around the line, and I don't think I had direct line through the weed. I think it was through the weed sort of in a lasso like that. So when I was giving line, it wasn't going as I wanted to. I think the fish was able to get more tension onto the hook than I was able to prevent, and right at the death it came off. To lose a mid-40 was a bit of a sickener, but it was sweetened that night. It was the night of the full moon, and I had 2 more takes just before it got light, and one of them was a fish called black spot, which is a super rare one, hadn't been caught this year, and it weighed 35-12. And I followed it up just a short while later with one called the kinky back linear, which is about 33 pounds as well. So two 30s, nice, but obviously the cherry got away, and that's more or less. I think I've done one more session since then, and then I fished in a swim 2, and I pre-baited because Natalie was up the hospital having a scan, and I pre-baited knowing that I'd have to go up there during this for the scan, and I came back after the scan, cast out onto my bait, and after having caught black spot for the first time this year, the first fish of the year the first time it's been caught that year, I then repeat caught it, you know. So it shows sometimes even the super rare ones, when you catch them, it can sort of knock them out of sync as such. It was £36 that time. Since then, we've had a bit of a, well, what could you say, a major life-changing event. Natalie has given birth to our twins as such, baby Harry and Isabella, and obviously I've had a bit of time off, a couple of weeks at home, you know, with them, and sort of, it's only just now I'm just starting to creep back out. Unfortunately, we're now middle of November. It's cold, and the lake hasn't done a bite for a couple of weeks, and it's all starting to feel like winter's on our doorsteps, you know. But luckily, the in-laws have offered to come in and stay with Natalie and help her sort of on a Wednesday and a Thursday night, which is going to allow me to get out, as I am here with Gary now filming this diary. It's funny, you know, the first night after being at home with the kids, you know, I'm buzzing to get fishing, but by the time I'm getting the rods out on the second evening, I'm already feeling guilty and I want to get home, you know. So we've been here 2 nights, savage frost, nothing's happened. But yeah, I'm still buzzing for my fishing, but I'm also buzzing for the new dad thing. And yeah, we'll pack up soon, get home, and we'll pick this up next time.